Celebrities are all around us, and whether we like it or not, they affect all of our daily lives. But imagine for a moment if there was a celebrity in you that was bigger than any of the celebrities that we know today. But when the history books are written, how many of these faces will really be remembered? My interest in history and photography has led me to the celebrities of the past who are immortalised in a portrait, a representation of a character who has impacted on the world. For the past 6 years, I've been recreating portraits of some of the most famous and iconic figures with their direct descendants, often with startling results. I recreate the images in the finest possible detail, having costumes and props made for historical accuracy to complete the picture, sometimes discovering little known facts about their lives and loves that history has passed by. I have come to Paris, arguably the cultural capital of the world, to ask people in this celebrity-obsessed age what they think is the most famous portrait in the world.
Mona Lisa?
Mona Lisa?
Mona Lisa, of course.
Mona Lisa.
Well, Mona Lisa from Leonardo da Vinci, I think.
Who is in the painting, do you think?
I think it's just a normal lady.
Who was the Mona Lisa?
I have no idea, actually.
I don't know. It's the question.
His mother?
The alter ego of the one who created the Mona Lisa.
Some people thought that she was Michelangelo in drag.
Nobody knows who she was or who he was. It's like, I don't know, mystery.
Interesting, the most famous painting in the world, and nobody knows who she was. How is it that her identity has faded while the image itself is ubiquitous and iconic? Perhaps it's because it's by Leonardo da Vinci, the greatest artist the world has ever seen. The world fell in love with the painting, but so did he, taking it with him wherever he went, from when he painted it in 1503 until the day he died in 1519. But was she even real, or just a figment of Leonardo da Vinci's imagination? Much of what we know about the Mona Lisa comes from one book, called The Lives of the Artists, written by artist and architect Giorgio Vasari in 1550. In the book, Vasari documents all the great artists in Renaissance Italy. Unsurprisingly, Leonardo da Vinci was amongst these. Indeed, a chapter is devoted to him and refers to the painting for the first time, identifying the sitter as Lisa Gherardini, the wife of Florentine silk merchant Francesco del Giocondo. But there are some flaws in Vasari's account, and many doubt whether he even saw the painting at all. After all, when he writes about the Mona Lisa in The Lives of the Artists, the eyebrows are completely natural, growing thickly in one place and lightly in the other, following the pores of the skin. But there's just one problem here. She hasn't got any eyebrows. Another clue to the identity of the sitter, but they've been hotly contested, and have left room for considerable and colourful speculation over the years. We have lacked a contemporary record of the painting, or at least we did, until historian Armin Schlechter of the Stadtbibliothek Library in Speyer, Germany, made a remarkable discovery in the margin of the book. which once and for all established the identity of the Mona Lisa, having lain undiscovered for nearly 500 years. So Armin, you've made an amazing discovery about the identity of the Mona Lisa. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Of course, I found a marginal note in an older printed book, in a book printed in the 15th century. And this marginal note makes a connection between Leonardo da Vinci and the picture of Mona Lisa.
This is fascinating. Who wrote this message in the margin? Who was it?
We know the person. His name is Agostino Vespucci. He studied in Florence in the end of the 15th century, and he worked in the chancery of Florence in the time of Niccolo Machiavelli. Actually, he was a friend of Machiavelli. We have letters written from Vespucci to Niccolo Machiavelli.
Would Vespucci have known Leonardo?
He would have known. Today, Florence is a big city. In the Middle Ages, of course, this was a big city, but the main players did know each other. Vespucci was a professional scribe. Leonardo da Vinci used Vespucci as a professional scribe, and I think that was the ground, the base of the relation between these persons.
Okay, so Vespucci would have known Leonardo, and he also would have known Lisa del Giocondo.
I think so, because he knew very exactly on which works, on which pictures Leonardo da Vinci was working on in October 1503.
But tell me, why is this note in the margin so important?
First, it's a contemporary note. It's written in October 1503 when Leonardo actually worked on this picture. Second, it's the first mentioning of Lisa del Giocondo. We have got another source until now, the most important source. This would be Giorgio Vasari, but Vasari wrote in 1550. Leonardo da Vinci was long dead in 1550. This marginal note I discovered was written in October 1503, 47 years earlier. So it's the earliest reference which tells us that Leonardo da Vinci painted a picture of a woman called Lisa del Giocondo. As an historian, no bigger find is possible, I think, than a gloss concerning Leonardo da Vinci and, after all, Mona Lisa, the most important picture he made after all.
So Vespucci knew all the characters, and he identifies for the first time ever in a contemporaneous note the sitter, Lisa del Giocondo, which confirms what Vasari wrote in the lives of the artists. This discovery is the missing link which has eluded historians for centuries. So the Mona Lisa was a real person, but does she have any living descendants? I travelled to Florence to meet respected genealogist Domenico Savini, who has used this discovery to help establish a family tree and has worked out who her direct descendants are. Hi, Dr. Savini, very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Shall we go and have a look? That'd be great. I'm here to talk to you about the family tree of Lisa Gherardini. When did you start researching this?
Lisa Gherardini era molto interessante, mi piaceva l'idea, non è nato come un vero e proprio lavoro, è nato come una passione. Ho visto il quadro a Parigi la prima volta da bambino, mi ha appassionato e ho cominciato a lavorare nella genealogia da 20 anni e a questo punto ho chiesto a me stesso cosa ti piacerebbe fare come genealogia, come divertimento. E mi sono detto la cosa più divertente è fare l'albero genealogico di Lisa Gherardini.
How many generations are they the great granddaughters of Lisa Gherardini?
Sono 15 generazioni. Se partiamo da Lisa Gherardini fino alle attuali, le due sorelle Strozzi, sono 15 generazioni. Questo è l'albero genealogico in linea femminile che parte da Mona Lisa e arriva a Natalia Irina Strozzi.
So in your mind there is no doubt about this? You are certain?
Le mie ricerche, i miei studi dicono di sì. Dentro di me dico sì, perché è molto bello, è molto facile adesso capirlo perché l'ho studiato molto.
So tell me, did the Strozzi family know that you were doing this? Did you go to them or did they come to you?
Sì, la famiglia Strozzi sapeva di essere discendente di Mona Lisa.
So is there something that I should look for in the Mona Lisa, which is also in Irina and Natalia?
Penso di sì, questo l'hanno notato molte persone. Adesso che tutti lo sanno, tutti, ah, hai visto, assomigliano alla Gioconda, assomigliano all'antenata.
So not only has Domenico identified the descendants of the Mona Lisa, but they are Italian princesses from one of the most famous families in Italy, the Strazzis. The Strozzi family name seems to be everywhere I go in Florence. What sort of family could have made such a lasting impression on the city for the last 500 years? It was here that Lisa Gherardini was born. Daughter of Anton Maria Dinaldo Gherardini, she was the eldest of 7 children. She is thought to have been born on the 15th of June 1479 at Via Squazza, which means the wash or little stream. She went on to marry silk merchant Francesca del Giocondo when she was aged just 15, becoming his 3rd wife. I wanted to have a look for myself to see if anything remained of her family's way of life. It's very modern.
Very. Because you open the door, you open the window. Small court where, you know, even if you say one word and then everybody can hear because of the echoes.
So your neighbours were your family, really?
Actually, I know everything. If I open the window, I can listen to people fighting and people, you know, everything, everything. And then you say, you know, you can hear everything. Oh, who cares? But they just don't care. They keep living like in the 11th century. Still the same. Many of these houses here around were houses just for pleasure, you know, like.
A house of pleasure?
Yes.
As in, you mean a brothel?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
okay.
Prostitute, a lot of prostitutes they used to live in here around. All the housing here around were really poor people, prostitutes, and that's why many artists, when they need somebody to pose for the painting, they came here.
What makes you think that she was in your building?
It makes me feel like most probably she was here, because all the windows you see in the street, they don't have the main entrance from Via Sguazza. Since I came in this apartment, I felt something mystic in this house. I didn't know the story. I came to know about the story of Mona Lisa like 4 years ago. They told me, oh, do you live in Via Sguazza? That's where Mona Lisa was born.
Okay, so maybe she lived here, maybe she didn't in your flat.
Yeah.
But it's a nice story, hey?
It's a nice story. It's a nice story to believe that was in my house.
After meeting Maria, it's clear to me that though we're in the 21st century, that the past is never far away in modern-day Florence. In the 21st century, the Strazzis live in a palace in the beautiful Tuscan countryside close to San Gimignano, where they run a world-class winery which has produced wine for nearly 1,000 years. But will I see anything of the Mona Lisa in them, and which of them will bear the closest resemblance to their forebear? Ah, Natalia Irina.
Is it you?
Yes. Very nice to meet you at very, very long last.
Nice to meet you.
Natalia Irina.
Irina, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
if you
let's
could show
go.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. We start immediately. Very well.
That's right. Okay. I'm going to do that. So direct descendants, no little side branches. You're the direct descendant. Well, what do you think about Lisa Gherardini? What do you know about her?
Well, we suppose she was very simple lady, very quiet. She was a really good mother. She was a very example mother, wife, like she looks in a painting. She's quite serene, maybe because she was waiting a baby, or she just gave birth. This is still the two versions that are discussing, but we think she was pregnant.
Your family already knew it.
Yeah, you know, in Florence and the history of Florence, everything is still there. The Renaissance history, it's really something that still is alive. It's living thing in Florence, in the city. So all these great histories that you heard, it's still in the descendants of all the families. So we keep it like a very special treasure.
What response did you get from other people when they found out you were the direct descendants of the Mona Lisa?
Mona Lisa, it's an icon. It belongs to the world. So it's mystery, and it should be a mystery, even if you know this story, if it's our family, if everything is documented. But on the other side, it's difficult to change people's mind. So if they heard, oh, this should be, why not? This can go longer, it can be, we know the truth anyway, but it's quite difficult to change what was taught to people for many centuries.
What makes the painting of the Mona Lisa so special for you?
She's eternal. She's a mystery. She's a symbol. She represents the experiments of Leonardo. She represents what he thought about art. And yeah, really, the thing also that he brought it in France with him, he wanted to work on it until his death. It's also something very important to consider, because it was really why I said it's the symbol of his way of doing art, because he really wanted to work on it until the end. So what it represented for him, this is maybe the main thing we should think about.
Because he loved this painting. It was something special for him, really. So can we say the secret? From Lisa Gherardini in the family tree, we arrive around 19th century. And this is the period of the family Mozzi del Garbo, which is already our grandmother's family. And she had a collection of paintings, different paintings. Of course, when she died, her son sold all the collection. And we think, but the inventarius, the document of all the paintings, is still there. It's in the Italian, in Florentine archives, and we have seen it. It's like all painting, and at a certain point you can see painting Donna Lisa Gherardini, signed Leonardo. That means that in our family we had a second painting, painted by Leonardo, of her.
So it would seem there was something very special about the painting for Leonardo. But why did he paint it? I talked to Leonardo expert and scholar, Professor Martin Kemp.
We meet at last.
Yeah, it's always nice to get a face after all the emails.
Right. The Mona Lisa, basically, it's a pretty average story. Lisa Gherardini, she marries Francesco del Giocondo, who's new money, rising silk merchant. Leonardo's father knew Francesco del Giocondo, the silk merchant, and that generates the portrait.
Where is it thought that Leonardo would have met Lisa and her husband?
Leonardo's father, Sir Piero de' Medici, was a major lawyer, about number 3 or 4 in the Florentine legal system, and had undertaken legal jobs for Francesco. They worshipped at the same church, so they were probably quite close, both professionally and personally. The question is, of course, when Leonardo is meant to be painting the great battle scene for the Florentine Republic, why he turned to this lesser commission. And I suspect it does depend upon his relationship with his father. Leonardo's father was a hefty figure in the Florentine establishment.
It is actually quite a plain painting, isn't it? It's not really over the top in many senses at all.
Yeah, Mona Lisa would have surprised people at the time. First of all, landscape backgrounds are not standard. For a woman to indulge in eye contact, and it happens not that much in portraits, it's a sort of come on, as it were. It's not good manners, particularly in aristocratic circles. We stick it in the Louvre, or the Louvre sticks it up, and millions of people come to see it. But It's a very intimate, communicative picture, and she's smiling for her husband. She's not smiling for you or me, because that would be a naughty thing to do.
I've found that there's a certain Leonardo madness that seems to exist. People seem to get bitten by this. How does that happen, do you think?
Well, people get drawn in. He's an incredibly beguiling figure in many ways. A scientist, an engineer, an artist, has become the image of the universal genius. If you look at all the thousands and thousands of pages of notebooks, there's hardly anything which is personal. This is the man who makes immensely personal art, which has extraordinary communicative frisson in it, and yet we know almost nothing about his inner thoughts. We know about his intellect, about how he thinks water moves or what hair does, but there's that distance which allows you to step into it, and he draws people in, and I'm afraid in the vacuum some of them suffer from not being able to breathe properly, and they go completely crazy.
In the middle of one of his biggest commissions, the Battle of Anghiari, he undertakes a portrait for a good friend of the family. Having gone to all this trouble, I find it unusual that this intimate personal portrait was never actually delivered. Perhaps there was a second portrait. Could this be the one the princesses are talking about? On the other hand, maybe Leonardo da Vinci madness is taking hold of me. Everything in a portrait is there for a reason, particularly when it's a painting. Every aspect has to be considered by the artist to telegraph something about the character in the painting, so we're left in no doubt as to what's going on in his or her life. There are going to be all sorts of challenges in recreating the Mona Lisa. What was she wearing, and what sort of chair was she sitting on? If I'm to recreate the painting faithfully, I will need to know more about the detail, some of which is obscured by the ravages of time. I travel to Paris to visit scientist Pascal Coll. He shares with me the moment he first met the Mona Lisa as a child, and how this has driven him to invent a camera which has revealed many of the Mona Lisa's hidden secrets. Pascal?
Hi, Drew.
Very pleased to meet you at last.
Please come. People coming here, what are you doing here? I'm wondering. I want to discover what is the secret of this painting.
That's fantastic. So you wanted to see inside the painting. You wanted to see as they were when Leonardo painted them.
Yes, because I am convinced that the secret of Mona Lisa is not mystic. This is the secret of the painting is inside the pictorial layer, and to analyze the pictorial layer, you need new tools.
Tell me, what have you done? You've invented this remarkable camera. Can you tell me how it works and what the process is?
It's very simple. Instead to decompose the light in 3 colors, red, green and blue, I decompose the light in 13 colors.
How different are the colours in the painting from how they were 500 years ago?
Because the pigments used by the painter are mainly mineral pigments, and mineral pigments are very stable. 1,000 years, no problem. But the fact that pigment was mixed with oil, then apply a varnish on top, that destroy totally the color. And the color today have nothing to do with the genuine color.
In my quest to recreate the Mona Lisa, what advice can you give me?
The main idea of the veil is, for Leonardo, it was to split the light and to increase the sfumato effect.
Sfumato, that means through smoke?
Yes, the sfumato is the fact that your color is reflecting on me and my color is reflecting on you. So I change your color because I am here. And so the elements have to change the color themselves, between them. This is not only shadows, this is also colors.
Pascal invites me to have a look at what his camera has revealed about the painting. It would seem that over the years, restoration has removed some of its finer details. Vasari, in his book, The Lives of the Artists, he speaks about how fine her eyebrows are. And people always use this against Vasari and say, haha, this proves that Vasari did not know what he was talking about because she has no eyebrows. It's always kind of used against him.
Yes, but you have the proof with such picture that there was eyebrows and eyelashes.
You can see traces of them, that is true.
Ah, yes, yes.
So now we know Vasari was right. She did have eyebrows. That was a really interesting experience. Pascal has managed to rediscover the true colours of the Mona Lisa as Leonardo painted them 500 years ago. I can take this information to the costume designer and also to the artist who's going to be painting the background. It's going to help us recreate the Mona Lisa with a fantastic degree of accuracy. I visit historical costumier Pauline Loven, who has researched what the Mona Lisa was wearing and has sourced the finest materials possible to make a garment as close to the one as the Mona Lisa wore. Hi Pauline, nice to see you. How's things?
Fine, thank you.
So, here we go. It's absolutely fantastic. What's it actually made from, Pauline?
It's made from silk chiffon. The colour was matched with, to do with the analysis on the painting today to see what the colour might have been like originally.
How did you work out what the Mona Lisa was wearing?
Well, I think there were key things about the portrait. Her bosom is raised. She's wearing a structured garment underneath this soft gathered garment. So I then looked at a number of, I looked at all of Leonardo's drawings that were around the same period. But what really kind of gave me the insight was some of the paintings by Raphael, because he was inspired by the painting of Mona Lisa.
So it's involved quite a lot of historical detective work then?
Yes, it has. There's an anomaly in the embroidery on Leonardo's.
Could you show us what that anomaly is?
It's on the painting of by Leonardo at the very centre, whereas it's got a sort of a four-leafed design with two leaves in between. At one point it's got three in between. It could be that part of the design is hidden in the folds. I'm not sure.
A code?
Could be a code, yes.
Code or a mistake?
I don't think it's a mistake. I'm sure it's not a mistake. It could be a mistake by the maid. I think she may have put Mona Lisa's gown on that morning the wrong way round, because it's probably identical front and back. And that's where the embroidery began and ended the embroidery, and that was probably meant to be at the back.
By making this, we're also making history as well, because you're getting a feel for how the costume was actually made.
Yes.
And what strikes me more than anything is not only is it very beautiful, but it's got a very authentic feel to it.
Yes, and it's still functional. It's a proper functional garment. It works. The embroidery works. It allows the garment to curve around the neckline. I don't think Leonardo just made up a pretty design. I think it's a real garment.
And this is the golden embroidery around the top. Can you explain that to me?
When I had this challenge to reproduce Mona Lisa's clothes, the first person I approached was Avril Sanderson, who specialises in gold work and other couched embroideries.
Yeah, it's spectacular. Well, I can see Avril working away there in the corner, so I'm going to pop over and say hello to her now.
Yeah,
thank you.
Lovely. Hello.
Do you want to pull a chair up?
No.
Great. So this looks incredibly intricate, and I have to say I'm really impressed by how accurate it is, because when you look at the painting, the loops aren't totally smooth. They do have tiny little points in each corner, don't they?
Yes, yes.
Can you show me your early experiments?
Normally would embroider with gold thread, which, as you can see, is an awful lot stiffer. And the fabric is very, very light. But we tried it, and you can't get the angles, so you end up with a circular pattern. It's very pretty, but it's a circular pattern and it doesn't match the portrait, and it's very stiff.
So this is gold thread. It's made from real gold?
Originally it used to be, yes, 900 years ago.
But not anymore?
No, you can get it real gold, but it's too expensive now.
Okay. So what have you gone with? What did you choose to go with in the end?
After quite a lot of research, we decided we needed to make the cord that added the braid, and we found a colour, a thread that we could get all the colour exactly the same for each one. So we had to make the cord with this one.
So hang on a minute. You actually made the cord that you embroidered?
Yes. With my husband's hand drill, because I wanted to get a nice twist.
No wonder it looks real, because it is real. You know, it's very similar materials to what they were using in the day.
Well, this is a thicker thread that's couched on with that, and that's made of 60 strands of silk. Yeah.
Because this is very characteristic. I mean, anybody who's looked very closely at the painting would recognise this, and it's got that real feel of authenticity to it. So, no, really, you've done an excellent job. Thanks, Avril.
Thank you.
I always suspected it was a real garment, and not one pieced together in the artist's mind. Pauline and Avril's hard work go to prove this, and give a valuable insight into the materials and the sheer extent that silk was used throughout, even on the interlaced golden embroidery, which was in all likelihood silk. For me, what the Mona Lisa is wearing is a celebration of who her husband Francesco was and what he stood for. He was a leading silk merchant after all, and she is wearing silk on silk on silk, unadorned by a single piece of jewellery. Francesco is very much present in the painting without actually being in it himself. Where am I going to get a chair from? An exhaustive search has failed to find anything like the original chair, so I decide to get one made. Timothy Hayes is a master craftsman who has been working in traditional materials for all of his working life. Can I show you what we've got?
Yeah, sure.
As I said, the challenge is to make the exact sort of chair that the Mona Lisa was sitting in. Working from computer-aided designs based on research into the chair, he makes one from oak, using not a single screw or nail in the process. So we've got many of the components of the shoot, but I'm still left with the challenge of how to recreate the exceptional light which falls on the Mona Lisa. Photography means to draw or to paint with light, and that's exactly what I've got to do if I'm going to get anything close to the Mona Lisa. I consult my friend David Hobby, who is a photographer and world-renowned lighting expert. Will he be able to help me unlock some of Leonardo da Vinci's secrets of light? I'm trying to recreate the lighting. Can you give me some pointers on this?
I have to say, I've spent the last couple of weeks really looking at her, and the thing that blows me away, and you're discovering what Da Vinci was discovering, what, 500 years ago now? This is so different, so night and day from everything that was going on contemporarily. I mean, he was a fanatic about how light falls across curved surfaces, and this was the prototypical Renaissance portrait that expresses that for the first time. The more you look at it, the harder it gets. I mean, we know enough things about it to get close, but you're going to have some detail problems to solve.
What makes you think the detail problems? Because it's a particularly soft light, and how did he achieve that, do you think?
Well, we know that he liked to paint using twilight as a light source. And that glow on the horizon of twilight is nice and big and soft, and it wraps around. You're a photographer. You have to obey the laws of physics. Leonardo da Vinci is a painter, so he's not seeing exactly the same light, and he's fudging little things here and there, and that's your problem. How are you going to get really, really close to what he did while staying within the bounds of the laws of physics?
I'd really like your help with the lighting, just to take me that next step, to get me as close as I can to the real thing.
If any painting is worth that challenge, this painting is worth that challenge.
Well, let's have a go at it, David.
Absolutely.
okay?
Yep.
Let me just have a look.
I'm with you.
You know, when you finally get the camera in your hand, it's like coming home again. It really does feel great.
If it works.
If it works, and all we've got to do is light the image now.
Here is my worry, and here's what we have to look against on the other side. We don't want that raw light to hit on the background. So you take the octa and put it in fairly close. So you're going to create a hot spot in this area that bleeds down into a softer light as you go across here. Right, yeah, and the reason you bring it in close is two reasons: to create the two different zones of light as opposed to backing the thing up. And the other thing is you want this fabric to the point where it completely shadows your entire backdrop.
Okay.
You don't want any raw spill past this. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's going to be a challenge, though.
Oh, yeah.
The lights we are using all produce very soft light, which should give a similar quality to the light in Leonardo's painting.
You know, Drew, this light is so big, we're going to have to raise it up pretty high.
How do you mean?
Well, we've got to create that shadow under her chin.
How many lights are you thinking of using then, all up? The magic number of one?
Yeah. Think about how many lights they had to work with back in the 16th century. Sun.
That was it, and that was one light source. So you're saying that by emulating a 16th century light, we're just using one light?
It's kind of ironic. We have the ability to do lots more, and we're going to have to make that light do a few things. But in the end, this diffuser is essentially doing what the smoke was doing.
The tricky part is getting the lighting as close as possible to the painting. Rather than using multiple lights, we have ended up using just one light shone through a diffuser, which should give a very similar look and feel to the lighting in the Mona Lisa.
So I think if I can see her shadow side of her face from here, this light's going to spread out and see a little bit of the shadow side of her face right here too.
And let's see how that looks. I've commissioned an artist to paint a fresco for me, which we're going to put in behind the direct descendant of the Mona Lisa. That gives us an idea of the scale, but let's take this one over. Keep going that way a little bit. Keep going that way. This is very good. Hold it there, Joe, that's it. Fantastic, and again. Hold it there. Okay, how we're looking. Honestly, I am so pleased with that.
You just went from 0 to 90 in a day, and now you've just got little problems on the
Yeah, it's fine-tuning now, I think that...
And psychological.
It's very good. David, thanks for that. I think you...
I'm very pleased.
You know, I was overthinking that, and I think we were all overthinking it, and we were thinking that it was going to be a multiple light setup, but what you've done, you've helped me take it back to basics and thinking of the actual light source that Leonardo was working with, which was
twilight, one sun, right.
Now David has helped me with the lighting, I'm starting to feel the pressure, and I'm really wondering if I'll be able to execute the photo anything like Leonardo did with a painting. It would be great to photograph the portrait with a real landscape, but it's never been definitively identified and seems to combine many different elements which are nothing at all like the rolling Tuscan countryside where he lived and worked. The painting still hasn't given up all its secrets. I go to see Caroline de Perricave, who studied in Florence and has a passion for Renaissance art and technique. In this time-lapse, you can see her using a technique that Leonardo would have used, known today as sight size. Painting while viewing the artwork at a distance, to create an easier impression of the whole scene. No one knows what his studio really looked like, and somehow I don't imagine that the environment where she is working is so very different to Leonardo's studio.
Hi Drew, how's it going?
Very well, thanks. You making good progress?
Yes, yeah, it's good. Come through to the studio and have a look. Wow, fantastic. This is what I've done so far.
You're working from the digitally restored colours by Pascal Cott. Were you quite surprised when you saw the brilliance of the painting?
I was quite surprised, but as with any old oil painting, the varnish and the medium go very yellow, so I didn't know quite how brilliant the colours were.
I can see it starting to take shape, but What about the colours? I mean, we've got the vivid blue. I mean, are we going to get that?
The way that Leonardo would have painted is with very neutral monochrome tones to start with, and then they build upon that with very thin layers of paint. You'd let each layer dry in between that. So it does take time, but it will come, it will come.
How does this differ from the technique that Leonardo would have used?
Well, this is a lot more direct. He would have just used layer upon layer, very translucent paint, and he would have created much more brilliance by doing that. But because of the time scale, you know, it can't really be achieved.
So it's great, I can see it's really taking shape. We're using canvas, but what did Leonardo use?
A popular panel, and he would have, it was on a much smaller scale than this, but obviously to have the person in front of it and do the photograph, it's got to be on a much larger scale.
So Caroline, we've got one more day to go.
Mm-hmm.
Are you confident that you can finish this off in a day?
Fairly confident.
Only fairly confident. We've come all this way. You can do it, you think?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay, well, I'm not going to hold you up anymore. I'm going to let you crack on with it. So best of luck, and I'll see you in a day's time.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
My previous projects have been focused on the sitter of the portrait, but since the Mona Lisa is famous for being painted by Leonardo da Vinci, understanding the creator has been very much part of the recreation process. I wonder if I can find something inspirational in the Descendants, much like Leonardo did. And I invite them to explore the role of the Mona Lisa with me.
It's not what she was thinking, but who was around, what kind of shoes she was wearing, you know, was she cold, was she hot, was it like, was she comfortable sitting in the chair, or what kind of actually dress she used, how she chose the dress to wear for the painting. That's also something really nice and curious to think about.
So I'm going to ask you to wear a copy of the Mona Lisa's dress we've had made.
Wow, it's a great honor.
How do you feel about doing that?
Well, we feel a bit strange because we are not the Mona Lisa and we will never be the Mona Lisa. We're just some descendants after many years and centuries. So maybe we will just try to be ourselves in her dress.
I'm going to ask you both to do something. I want you to practice the expression of the Mona Lisa. Not so much the smile, but more with your eyes. And you'll need to do this in front of the mirror. Do you think you can do that for me?
We will try, hardly.
It's terrible to ask this, but we will try. We will think what she was thinking and we will try.
In the past, I've only had to recreate a portrait with one descendant, but this time, to avoid sibling rivalry, there are two, setting me a unique challenge. Tomorrow is the day of the shoot. I've been researching and preparing for this moment for more than 2 years. Even now, I'm not sure if I can pull it off. It's the day of the shoot. I've decided to shoot the portrait in one of the ancient wine cellars, and I work with the crew to build the set while the princesses have their hair and makeup done and costumes fitted. First up is Arena. It's the very first time that all the elements have come together, and we will find out if it really works.
So let's make some revolution.
What I'm going to do is, because we only need to see the front section of the painting, it's just here, so we'll leave the back. And I just need to curl up these little front bits.
Perfect. Yeah. So should I maybe first dress?
The sort of first layers.
Okay.
And then, so you're comfortable, then you can be made up, and then we'll put the top layers.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. Great. Okay.
The cellar is very atmospheric, and it does look fantastic, but it's a really tight spot to work in, and I have difficulty replicating the lighting setup that worked so well back in the UK.
So, do you want to take a seat on this? Yes. Very precarious.
think she was already dressed like that. It was her common dress, and so she just had to sit and pose. Because she looks very natural, actually. We had so many medias and all wanted, you know, to compare our faces to the Mona Lisa and making, you know, put our face on the painting and so on. And so personally, I don't like this kind of cheap restyling of the painting. But then when he explained the project, it's really fascinating to recreate all the ambience and the dress, and it's really like an analysis of the portrait. So I'm really excited. It's really like going back in the past. It's a time machine going back, and it's exciting. He's a great artist, actually, Drew. And he's doing art with us today.
So, yep, okay, we're finished for a minute. So.
I feel a bit like a lady from that time, maybe, yes? A young girl, let's say, from that time, yeah.
It's just a really, really fine little trim of white, which is completely even all the way around. So I'm going to stitch that in place.
This is all we need. As we're preparing the set, a message comes through that there is a problem. The dress does not fit and looks wrong. If the costume is wrong, then we really are in trouble. Hello, we have a problem?
A little bit. We're not seeing as much of this as we should be.
Disaster! This is on wrong. This is the top.
Oh, this goes on the top?
This goes on the top, this is underneath.
Fine, that explains it. So we're going to lose all this detail. Okay, don't panic.
I'm kind of pleased it's on wrong. You look fantastic, Ollie. Because we're really behind, because it's taking a long time. Yeah. I'm sorry if I didn't make myself clear earlier. So this goes on top. So you're okay with that?
Fine.
With so many layers of clothing and the pressure of the day, it's very easy to make a mistake.
I've taken the corset lacing out because it's making it, pulling it in is making it sit way too high on her. And I'm now going to put gaffer tape on instead of corset lacing and see if that makes it sit flatter, which I think it will do, hopefully.
Walking through the corridors of the castle, it's not difficult to imagine what it would have been like 500 years ago. Oh, you're ready soon. You're ready too soon. You've caught me out. You look fantastic. We've made a very special location here for you. If you just like to come through. Okay. It's really close. It's going to take quite a lot of really fine adjustments. We've got the basic angle worked out. What we're struggling with now is the detail, and it's always the detail which makes or breaks a shot. With the costume, with the height of the chair, and working out this amazing amount of variables, you alter one and it changes all the rest, throws all the rest out. I think we can do it, but to be really honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Shall I tape that dress down?
It is a very tight line. It's there, look.
Yeah.
It's like a pinch.
Well, it's bulldogged already, hang on.
If we took the corset off...
Put a black t-shirt
and put, yeah. Just to get that line. It's sending the garment all wrong, so maybe she wasn't wearing a corset after all. It's all down to historical research, and we don't know if it's right, actually. It's what it is. It's corkscrew ruche. So you're going to do this.
They're very big sleeves.
I will never look the painting in the same way I used to, that's for sure.
That is very close. I decided to use a smoke machine to create a sfumato, or light-through smoke effect, that Leonardo da Vinci used, and it's very effective. Irina, are you there? Yeah. That's it, more pride, more up, there we go. That's it, you've got it now. Close your little finger around the chair of the arm, chin down a little. That's great. We have got it. Well done, Irina. Thank you very much. Really, you were absolutely fantastic.
You are the creator. Thank you.
I'm very pleased with the result, but we're only halfway there. Next up is Natalia.
See me.
With Nikki being able to practice the fitting of the dress, the fit this time is a little easier, and I too have learnt much more about the pose from the shoot with Irina.
She was not enough.
No.
The advice is not to move, really.
Oops. Okay.
Very unglamorous.
Very glamorous.
Here. Yeah. Just need to...
Cosa non si fa per il vino? Oh my god.
Natalia, you look amazing. You look absolutely amazing. Your chair awaits.
Yeah.
Cipieri.
There is a certain resemblance, I really think so. But let's see. There's something about the forehead, something about the eyes.
If I wear a dress, it's switched in 1 minute. You know, I'm in. Just I wear it and I'm in. It's something really magic. So the atmosphere is really great because Drew made me feel as I'm sitting in front of Leonardo, really. So this is quite strong feeling. So we'll see what else.
Hold it there, guys. That's it. That's it. Just straight mouth, okay? Just eyes. And more chin, just more pride. Okay? Hold it there. Great. And again, hold it there. Give it a second just to settle now. One more that smoke spot. We're going to stop there because we've got it. We have got it. We've definitely got it, guys. Really, we've done it. Really, thanks. We've done it. Natalia, we've so got this. Please. I'm not going to let you see though. Quickly, you should hide the screen so she can't see. Ah. Well, what we're going to do, we're just going to do a little bit of. We're just going to get the pictures ready, and then it'd be really great if you and Irina would like to come have a look at them, and you can be the judges. The big question, though, is how much of a resemblance do the princesses bear to their 15 times great-grandmother? It's a big pressure moment. Oh dear. What do you think?
Well, we want just to see.
You just want to be put out of your misery, yeah? 1, 2, 3, open.
Oh my god.
What do you think your mum will say?
I don't know.
Why don't we ask her?
Absolutely.
Go and get your mum. See if she's around.
Yeah.
Иди посмотри. Look, a nice zebra. You see nice trees.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. 1, 2, 3, open. Open. Open your eyes.
No.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Who is who?
That's what everyone on the cruise says.
Oh my god. Bella. It was really fantastic. Fantastic. You are a great team.
And look at the
Thank
table.
you.
Great, really.
Thank you. That's
Are
very
you
kind of
happy?
I don't think happy covers it, really. I think I'm just overwhelmed by it.
Just excited.
You're right there. You're right
That's right.
there. There's a lot of passion here.
It gave some heart and some passion.
You should
Are
know
you
the answer to
satisfied?
that. They're
happy?
fantastic,
You're
really.
happy?
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. Fantastic. Of course, they were never going to look the same because they are different people. After all, it's not just an exercise in the replication of the Mona Lisa, but making portraits of the princesses themselves. But there are some elements which are uncannily similar. Look at each of the princesses' left eyes. A closer match is difficult to imagine. I feel though, when you look at any portrait, you bring your own judgments. So we, the viewers, must make our own minds up. For me, the very powerful relationship the princesses have with the past somehow shines through. Do you feel the weight of history on your shoulders?
Yes, we feel the weight of history on our shoulders. It's a big responsibility anyway to have it and to share it and to make everybody part of the history, to continue the history in a certain way.
Okay, it wasn't quite how Leonardo da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa, but it has been a very interesting and worthwhile journey, which hopefully has shone a little more light on the biggest celebrity who never was, Lisa Gherardini. The Mona Lisa was actually a very ordinary woman of her time. She wasn't a singer or a movie star, but the representation of her went on to become the most famous image of all time. But I think the portrait of Lisa tells us much more about Leonardo than it does about the woman. What Leonardo did was to convey her humanity in such a way that it's beguiled and touched us all for generations. It was clear from talking to the princesses that knowing who they were descended from has had a considerable positive impact on their lives. Perhaps if we knew where we came from, it would have a similar impact on our lives and the way we live them.